Guys, he is losing it. If you have been following the Orange Buffoon's rantings on Truth Social, you would know that this guy is melting down. I think he is beginning to panic. Now, my last video, I read one of his Truth Social posts in which he was ranting about the recent polls, which are horrible for him. And he was saying, they're all fake and, his typical crap. And he has another one, which I don't normally read 2 Truth Social posts in one day, but this one's friggin' bonkers. So I'm going to get to this in a second. But I think what he is so panicked about is these polls that have come out showing how horribly unpopular he is. I think the No Kings protests have really got under his skin. When you couple that, and of course they lie about what the No Kings protests were, but you could see what they were. All right, millions upon millions of people came out, took to the streets peacefully against this authoritarian piece of shit. And you couple that with these polls, which are horrible for him. One of these recent polls that just came out shows him at a 37% approval rating, 63% disapprove of him, the highest disapproval rating he has ever had. I mean, it's bad. He's underwater on every single issue. He's horribly underwater on the economy, which is always the most important issue. And then importantly, and I think this is one that's really got him bothered, the generic congressional ballot. When they ask, if the election were held today, would you vote for the Republican or the Democrat? And right now, a year out from the election, Democrats have opened up an 8-point lead over Republicans. That is huge. The last time we saw a gap that wide was all the way back in 2017, a year before the 2018 midterms, Trump's first midterm election. And as you'll recall, in that midterm election, Republicans got routed. Democrats won huge. And if the midterms next year are anything like the 2018 midterms, then Democrats will definitely get control of the House, and they may even flip the Senate. And that would be a nightmare scenario for Donald Trump. All of the crimes that he has committed since taking office, all of the bribery schemes, the extortion, the kickbacks, selling pardons, on and on and on. Democrats would be in a position to be able to investigate all that. And let me remind you, we've talked about this before, bribery is a crime, and it is a crime for which there is no immunity for Trump. Remember, the Supreme Court's horrible immunity decision only applies to official acts. You cannot argue that bribery is an official act of the President of the United States, especially when you look at the impeachment clause. And there's only 2 offenses in the impeachment clause that are named as things that if a president does these things, he can be impeached and removed from office. That is bribery and treason. Bribery, treason, and other high crimes and misdemeanors. So that's one that's specifically named. So there's no way you can argue that bribery is an official act entitled to immunity from prosecution. So every act of bribery, he can be prosecuted for. He's scared to death of these things coming out. If Democrats, here's a good example. If Democrats have control of Congress, they can invite Jack Smith to testify and talk about his report and all the evidence they had against Donald Trump. It could get really, really bad for Donald Trump. And so I think he's panicked. I know he's panicked. He's friggin' panicked. And so I came across this tweet that he posted this morning, and man, it is bonkers. It shows you how panicked I think that he is. He's calling for the termination of the filibuster, not to reopen the government without Democrats. I don't think he gives a shit about reopening the government. I think he'd rather the government stay closed. I think he'd rather continue the government shutdown. I think he wants to get rid, and he says it in here, he wants to get rid of the filibuster so that he and his cult in Congress can pass whatever they want. And I think he wants to pass a lot of things that are going to stack the deck, in his mind, for Republicans in upcoming elections. That's what I think it's all about for him. So let me read this. Now, I really wish that I could do a Trump voice. I really don't do voices very well. I wish I did. I see so many people do a good Trump. I can't really do a Trump. I do my best, but this morning, somebody, the post I read from Truth Social, I read it in my Trump voice, which really doesn't sound like Trump at all. But somebody said that it sounded like Homer Simpson. So, it seems, the guy is such a friggin' unhinged loon that it doesn't seem right to just read his tweet in a normal voice because he's so unhinged. You read it and it's unhinged. The lunacy just jumps off the page at you or jumps off the screen. And you could, just the words and the way he writes, the all caps here, you're like, this is a crazy person writing this. And so it doesn't seem right to just read it in a normal voice, which is why I try to do it in a Trump voice. But, someone talked about Homer Simpson. So I'm going to try my best Homer Simpson as I read this, just because, as I said, you can't do it in a normal voice. It's not right. So here is what Donald Trump wrote this morning on Truth Social in my best Homer Simpson voice. He wrote, "The Democrats are far more likely to win the midterms and the next presidential election if we don't do the termination of the filibuster, the nuclear option, because it will be impossible for Republicans to get common sense policies done with those crazed Democrat lunatics being able to block everything by withholding their votes. For 3 years, nothing will be passed, and Republicans will be blamed. Elections, including the midterms, will be rightfully brutal. If we do terminate the filibuster, we will get everything approved like no Congress in history. We will have fair, free, and safe elections. No men in women's sports, or transgender for everybody." What the hell does that even mean? No transgender for everybody? What is that? Is it like a party gift? Oh, here's a transgender for you and a transgender for you. I mean, it just doesn't even make sense. Anyway, strong borders, major tax and energy cuts, and will secure our Second Amendment, which the Democrats will also terminate immediately. How the hell are Democrats going to terminate the Second Amendment immediately? I mean, does he know what immediately means? Immediately means like right now. How are Democrats going to terminate? Because he's saying, if you follow the logic of this buffoon, he is saying that if Republicans do not end the filibuster, that Democrats will terminate the Second Amendment immediately. How exactly are they going to do that? What? All right, he's a fucking idiot. Where was I? Oh, they'll terminate it immediately. If we don't do it, they are far more likely to do well in the upcoming elections, which would mean a packed Supreme Court. Okay, so sorry, I got to keep stopping. If Democrats win the midterms, they're going to pack the Supreme Court. Okay. Is it he that is this fucking stupid? Or is it, who? It's the Republicans in Congress that he thinks are that stupid? I mean, who is this stupid to think that if Democrats win the midterms, that they're going to pack the Supreme Court? They can't even nominate anyone. Only the president can nominate someone to the Supreme. What the is he talking about? He's panicked. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's just whatever. Just throw some shit. I'm just going to put some shit in here. Do it. Terminate the filibuster. They're going to put me in prison. We got to win. That's what this is. Okay, where would pack the Supreme Court? Which would mean a packed Supreme Court. 2 more states and 4 more Democratic senators. D.C. and Puerto Rico. We can't let them be states. That would be terrible. And 8 more electoral votes. Remember, Republicans, they are going to end the filibuster as soon as they get the chance. We know this because they already tried. And the only 2 people who didn't go along are now out of office. But they have much less chance of winning if we have great policy wins after wins after wins. In fact, and I'm going to put this in all caps because it's really important. In fact, they will lose big and for a very long time. Terminate the filibuster now. End the ridiculous shutdown immediately. And then, most importantly, pass every wonderful Republican policy that we have dreamt of for years. Dreamt of for years. But never gotten. We will be the party that cannot be beaten. We will be the smart party. Respectfully yours, President Donald J. Trump. How was that? I don't know. Anyway, the guy's friggin' nuts. Can we all agree on that? He's insane. And what I love is that he's panicked. Seriously, that's what's going on here. The man's panicked. The man's a criminal. And you know what? I don't think, God willing, we have not seen the end of the Jack Smith investigation. Because we don't know. Okay, and I'll say that right up front. I don't know what happened at Mar-a-Lago with those stolen documents. The question that we don't know the answer to is why. Why did he steal all those documents? And why did he go to such lengths to obstruct the federal government getting them back? Because they bent over backwards to try to get those from him. And he denied having them. I don't have any stolen documents. What documents? What are you talking about? He obstructed. He refused to turn them over, giving them no chance but to get a search warrant and go and get those documents. Why was he doing it? Well, a lot of people think, myself included, that he was selling those documents. I think he committed treason. If I had to guess, that's what I think happened. And think about it. This man already hates this country. You can hear it. The hate is dripping. Every time he speaks, you could just hear the hatred that he has for this country. And man, think about it right after the election and the 4 years he was out of office. Man, did he hate this country. They threw him out of office. Screw America. I'm going to sell these documents. They owe me. They stole this election from me. I'm going to get mine. I'm going to take these documents because I can, because I'm president. The Presidential Records Act. It's called the Presidential Records Act. That means I can do whatever I want. So he took those documents, and what did he do with them? I think he fucking sold them. That's what I think he did. And a lot of other people think he did too. If he did that, that is treason, my friends. Even if he didn't sell them, even if he just gave them, treason. And guess what? Treason has no statute of limitations. Now, I don't know for sure if that's the case. You know, I suppose Jack Smith could have charged him with treason. Maybe Merrick Garland wouldn't have let him charge him with treason. I could see that happening. Anyway, the point is, if there is anything that is arguably treason in any of that, there is no statute of limitations. Maybe Donald Trump is scared to death of that. Maybe that's why he needs Republicans to maintain control of Congress. And by the way, here's another thing. If Donald Trump is going to try to steal the 2028 presidential election, either to make sure that a Republican succeeds him and therefore he won't be prosecuted, or to throw out the results to try to stay in office himself somehow, all of that comes down to having to have control of Congress. When you game it all out, it all comes down to this. It won't work unless Republicans control Congress and are willing to go along with his scheme. If Republicans don't let me try that again. If Republicans don't control Congress, it all falls apart. So keeping control of Congress is absolutely imperative for Donald Trump. And I think when he's seeing these polls, he's seeing the No Kings protests, he's panicked. Because if he loses Congress, he loses his protection. And without the protection shielding him from investigation and ultimately down the road prosecution, he is screwed. And I think that's what he's worried about. Anyway, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Talk to you again soon.